My name is Julie. I'm 32 years old, and if you had told me years ago that the deepest wounds in my life wouldn't come from strangers, but from my own family, I wouldn't have believed you. Yet here I am, trying to piece together the wreckage of everything I once trusted. Growing up, it was always me, my parents, and my younger sister, Harper. From the outside, we looked like an ordinary family. But behind the smiles and school photos, there was always a quiet tension. Harper and I were never close, never even neutral. She seemed to resent my very existence. If I got praised for a good grade, she'd sulk for days. If I brought home a friend, she'd find a way to insert herself, or worse, sabotage the friendship. I remember one particular afternoon when I was 15. I had saved up for weeks to buy a new blouse, soft lavender, delicate buttons, something that made me feel older, more confident. The first time I wore it to school, Harper accidentally spilled grape juice down the front. Her smirk when Mom rushed to comfort her instead of me has stayed with me all these years. "She's just a kid, Julie," my mom said, brushing it off. My father said nothing, just folded the newspaper tighter in his hands. And so it went. Harper took, I lost, and my parents shrugged. Despite that, I carved out a path for myself. After college, I pushed into a marketing career, climbing rung after rung, refusing to let Harper's shadow follow me. Every late night at the office, every extra project I volunteered for, had a purpose. And finally, after years of sacrifices, I bought my own apartment, a modest two-bedroom place, but in a decent neighborhood. It wasn't huge, and the mortgage felt like a chain around my ankles, but it was mine. That pride of inserting my own key into my own door was worth every exhausted morning. Meanwhile, my parents struggled. They lived in a cramped studio apartment on the edge of town. The walls were yellowed with age, and the neighbors were loud enough that you could hear their arguments through the thin plaster. Every time I visited, guilt tugged at me. My parents deserved better, but life had been unkind. Dad worked odd jobs since his company downsized. Mom babysat for neighbors, bringing home little cash. They never complained, but I could see the weariness in their faces. And Harper, she always found a way to spin gold out of straw. Even with mediocre grades and half-hearted jobs, she'd show up to family dinners with a new designer purse or salon, perfect hair. She had a talent for making people take care of her, boyfriends, friends, even Mom. If I was the workhorse, Harper was the butterfly, drifting where she pleased and somehow always landing on her feet. Things were manageable, tolerable, until Jake came along. Jake, he was sweet, attentive, steady in a way I'd longed for. We met through work, and after 8 months of dating, I was beginning to think he might be my forever. He had that easy charm, the kind that made waiters remember him and strangers strike up conversations. At first, Harper seemed indifferent, but slowly I noticed her orbiting closer. She'd show up at the coffee shop where Jake and I met for lunch. "Oh, I just happened to be nearby," she'd say, though the smirk in her eyes told me it was no coincidence. She laughed a little too loud at his jokes, leaned in a little too close when she touched his arm. One evening, Jake's phone buzzed, and I saw her name flash across the screen. She'd texted him about needing help with her Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. As if she couldn't Google it. I confronted her once when she appeared outside his office during his lunch break. "Harper, this is weird. Why are you always around him?" She widened her eyes in that fake, innocent way she'd perfected since childhood. "What? I can't be nice to your boyfriend? God, Julie, you're so paranoid." Her words stung more because Jake repeated them later. "She's just being friendly, Nance. Don't let your sister get under your skin." But I knew better. Harper had always wanted what I had. My friends, my clothes, my parents' approval, and now, my boyfriend. The tension built quietly, like a storm gathering over still water. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, telling myself I was overthinking. But in my chest, I felt the storm coming. One Tuesday morning, it finally broke. I was at work, sifting through endless emails, when my phone buzzed. A message from Harper. "Hey sis, just wanted to let you know Jake and I are together now. Please don't try to interfere with our happiness." My heart stopped. The room blurred. For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I dialed Jake. He didn't answer. Instead, another text came through, this time from him. "It's true, I'm with your sister now." The walls of my office seemed to close in. I stumbled into the bathroom, locked the door, and collapsed against the sink. Tears blurred my vision as sobs ripped from my chest. It wasn't just losing Jake, it was the cruelty of Harper's betrayal. My own sister had targeted the one person I'd let myself believe was safe. The humiliation was unbearable. I imagined Harper's triumphant smirk, the way she'd savor every whispered family conversation. Julie couldn't keep her man. Julie lost to Harper again. That day, something inside me cracked, not just from heartbreak, but from the realization that the people closest to me could be the ones to cut the deepest. And though I didn't know it yet, this betrayal was only the beginning. Because when family betrays you once, they often come back for more. When I finally left that bathroom at work, my face was raw, my eyes swollen, and my soul hollow. I splashed cold water on my cheeks and stared into the mirror. A pale ghost stared back at me. I didn't recognize her. I tried calling Jake again, hoping, pathetically, that he'd pick up, that maybe it was all a cruel joke. But my calls went straight to voicemail. My mind replayed Harper's words over and over. Please don't try to interfere with our happiness. The audacity of it made me shake with rage. My own sister, dressing betrayal as happiness, like I was the villain if I dared to protest. That evening, after hours of silence, I got a text from Jake. Not an apology, not an explanation, just, "It wasn't planned, Julie, but Harper and we have something real. I'm sorry you're hurt, but please respect our choice." I threw my phone onto the bed so hard it bounced against the headboard. Something real? What about the years we'd shared, the plans we'd made? How dare he rewrite our history into a mistake, just to make space for Harper? The next few days blurred together. My friends noticed, whispering at work about how off I seemed. I avoided calls, texts, everything. But the one I couldn't avoid was my mother. She called me late one night, her voice hushed, conspiratorial. "Julie, sweetheart, I know this is difficult, but don't you think you're overreacting?" I almost dropped the phone. "Overreacting? Mom, my sister stole my boyfriend." "Well, technically he wasn't married to you," she said softly, as though logic could soften betrayal. "Love is complicated. Maybe Harper just needs him more than you do." The words burned into me. "Are you saying my pain doesn't matter?" No, of course not," she said quickly. "I just don't want you to lose your sister over a man. Family is forever." That phrase, family is forever. My mother's mantra, repeated through every childhood slight, every stolen blouse, every cruel word Harper had thrown at me. Family was forever, so Julie had to swallow her pain. I wanted to scream, but my father's voice came through the line, quieter, heavier. "Julie, what Harper did isn't right, but fighting will only tear us apart more. Please, try to move on." Move on. That was easy for him to say, sitting in their cramped studio while my life crumbled. But in that moment, something inside me hardened. I realized I couldn't stay in the same city, trapped by memories of Jake's laugh, Harper's smirk, my parents' silence. At work, my boss had been nudging me for months to consider a transfer to our branch in another state. It was a promotion, more money, better opportunities. I'd always hesitated because I didn't want to leave Jake behind. Now, that reason was gone. The decision came like a lightning strike. I marched into my boss's office the next morning and said, "I'll take the transfer." His surprise melted into excitement, already talking about logistics, timelines, benefits, but I barely heard him. In my chest, a small spark of freedom flickered. When I told my parents, the reaction split us further. "You're running away," Mom said, her voice dripping with disappointment. "Are you really going to abandon your family over this?" "Abandon? Mom, Harper betrayed me. Jake betrayed me. You're asking me to sit here and smile like it doesn't matter. Can't you two just work something out? Share the holidays, take turns?" she pleaded, her voice absurdly naive. I laughed bitterly. "What, like custody of a dog? He's not a thing to divide, Mom, and I'm not staying here to watch them play happy couple." Dad interrupted quietly, his tone different, tired, resigned. "Do what you need to do, Julie. You've worked hard. You deserve better." It was the first time I'd heard him side with me, even faintly, and it nearly undid me. But I nodded, packed my things, and within 2 weeks, I was gone. Leaving the city felt like stepping out of a burning house. The air was cleaner, the weight on my chest lighter. My new apartment wasn't glamorous, just a temporary rental until I figured things out, but it was mine, untainted by betrayal. I walked new streets, met new people, and for the first time in months, I could breathe without the scent of Harper lingering. Still, there was a loose end, the apartment back home. My beautiful two-bedroom that I'd bled for, with its granite countertops and little balcony where I'd imagined coffee mornings with Jake. The mortgage payment still arrived each month, a reminder of the life I'd fled. At first, I considered selling it. The market was good, and I could have broken even, maybe made a profit. But then I thought of my parents, still stuck in that suffocating studio. The guilt gnawed at me. Maybe, just maybe, I could turn this nightmare into something good. So one evening I called them. "Look," I said, heart thudding, "I'm planning to stay here long term. Why don't you and Dad move into my apartment? It's bigger, safer, closer to everything. I'll keep paying the mortgage and taxes. You just cover utilities. It'll give you both some dignity back." There was silence on the line. Then a soft sniffle. My mother was crying. "Oh, Julie, honey, we couldn't possibly. That's too generous." "It's not generosity, it's practical. You need space. I need someone to care for the place. Everyone wins." Dad's voice came through, steadier this time. "Are you sure, Julie?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I want you to have it." They accepted. Too quickly, maybe. At the time, I felt relief, like I'd balanced the scales, mended the wounds between us. I didn't realize I was planting the seeds of my next heartbreak. For a little while, things seemed almost peaceful. I worked, built friendships, rediscovered laughter. Harper and Jake's shadows dimmed with distance. I convinced myself that maybe, just maybe, I could heal. But betrayal doesn't vanish when you look away. It festers, quietly, waiting. And in my family, betrayal always came in pairs. 6 months. That's how long it took for me to feel like myself again. In my new city, I finally began to breathe. The office buzzed with energy, and my team actually respected me. I went out for drinks after work, joined a weekend hiking group, and even signed up for pottery classes. For the first time in years, my life felt like it belonged to me, and not to the endless tug-of-war with Harper. Every month, I dutifully paid the mortgage on the apartment back home. I pictured my parents there, finally stretching out in real rooms instead of shuffling around that suffocating studio. I imagined Dad reading the newspaper on the balcony, Mom cooking in a kitchen that actually had counter space. That image gave me peace. It made the financial weight worth it. Then, one ordinary Tuesday evening, while scrolling through my phone, the peace shattered. I was lying on my couch, absently flicking through updates, when a notification popped up. My cousin Lisa had liked a photo on Harper's page. Normally, I'd have ignored it. I'd practically trained myself not to peek into Harper's curated world of filtered smiles. But something tugged at me. Maybe it was boredom, maybe weakness. I clicked, and there it was. Harper, standing in a kitchen I knew better than my own reflection. My granite countertops, my backsplash, my apartment. She was smiling, holding a fancy coffee press, Jake's arm slung possessively around her waist. The caption froze my blood. "Many thanks to my parents for giving me this apartment. Finally have my own place with my amazing fiancé. Housewarming party soon." I reread it 3 times. Giving her the apartment? My hands trembled as I scrolled further. Post after post. Harper and Jake cooking, lounging on my couch, Harper posing in my bedroom mirror, my closet now stuffed with her dresses. Every trace of me erased, replaced by her smug grin. I felt bile rise in my throat. My parents. The people I had trusted, the people I thought I was saving, had handed everything I gave them to Harper. Not only that, they'd let her parade it online as though it was hers all along. I clicked on Mom's profile, desperate for clarity, and that's when the knife twisted deeper. 2 weeks earlier, she'd posted a photo of herself and Dad in yet another shabby rental, cramped, peeling paint, even worse than their old studio. The caption read, "New beginnings, simple living." My parents weren't living in my apartment at all. They'd given it to Harper and Jake, then downgraded themselves into a hole. I sat frozen on the couch, the phone slipping from my fingers. The betrayal was so layered, so absurd that my mind couldn't process it. I had given them a home, and they'd chosen to give it to Harper, choosing her happiness over their own comfort, over my sacrifice. The tears didn't come right away. First was shock, then fury, then a hollow, crushing grief. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my dad. Straight to voicemail. My fingers shook as I texted, "What the hell is going on? Why is Harper living in my apartment?" No reply. The silence was louder than any confession. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced my apartment like a caged animal, replaying every moment. My mother's tears, when I'd offered them the home. My father's careful, "Are you sure?" The way they'd accepted so quickly. Had it always been the plan? Were they just waiting for me to leave so Harper could swoop in? By morning, my anger had crystallized into something sharp, cold. If Harper wanted to steal again, fine. But this time, she was stealing from more than just me. She was stealing the very roof I'd built with my sweat and years of work. And that, I couldn't forgive. I went back to Harper's page. That's when I saw it. A comment from Cousin Lisa. "Can't wait for the housewarming. When is it?" Harper's reply, "This Saturday at 7. Finally get to show everyone our new place." I stared at the date. 4 days. Something inside me clicked into place. This was my chance. I called my boss, my voice steady but burning with restrained rage. "I need a week off, family emergency." He didn't ask questions. He knew better. By that afternoon, I'd booked the most expensive last-minute flight of my life. And it didn't matter. Every dollar was worth the vision playing in my mind. Harper's face when I walked through that door. That evening, I pulled out the box from the back of my closet. Inside, the deed, the mortgage documents, the insurance, every scrap of paper proving the apartment was mine. I spread them across the table like weapons, rehearsing the confrontation in my head. "You think you can erase me?" I whispered to the empty room, the papers glowing under the lamp. "You think you can steal my life? Let's see you lie when the proof is in black and white." The following days stretched endlessly. At work, I could barely focus. My friends noticed my clenched jaw, my restless tapping fingers. I brushed off their concern with vague excuses. No one could know, not yet. I wanted the reveal to be a perfect strike. When Friday arrived, I boarded the plane with my documents tucked safely in my carry-on. The hours dragged like years. I stared out the window at the endless sky, heart pounding so hard I thought it might tear through my ribs. Fear tangled with anticipation. Would my parents deny it? Would Harper laugh in my face? I landed at dusk, the city lights blinking beneath me like a battlefield waiting for its general. I booked a hotel near my old neighborhood, spent the night going through every page of proof again, memorizing each line. I even researched tenant laws and eviction procedures, just in case Harper tried to play the victim. By morning, my nerves had steadied into steel. I wasn't the ghost in the bathroom anymore. I was a woman with everything to lose and nothing left to fear. Saturday evening came. I dressed with care, not to impress, but to project strength. A sharp blazer, heels that clicked with authority. I wanted them to see me and know immediately this was not the Julie they could push around anymore. The Uber ride to my building was surreal. As the streets blurred past, I imagined Harper inside, basking in admiration, Jake by her side, my parents smiling like they hadn't betrayed me. The thought made me clench my fists so tight my nails dug into my palms. And then my building came into view. Cars lined the street. Music and laughter floated from the windows of my apartment. My apartment. I stepped onto the sidewalk, smoothed my blazer, and walked toward the door. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of war. I lifted my hand and knocked. The laughter inside stilled. After a pause, the door opened. And there she was, Harper, dressed in a designer gown, her eyes wide as if she'd seen a ghost, her face drained of color, her mouth fell open. "What the hell are you doing here?" she whispered. I smiled, slow and sharp. "Hello to you too, sis. Nice party. In my apartment." The air inside was thick with perfume, wine, and false laughter. From the doorway, I could see clusters of relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, neighbors I barely recognized, even old family friends holding glasses of champagne. Every wall of my apartment had been altered, painted in pale beige, adorned with photos of Harper and Jake smiling as if they'd built this life together from nothing. For a second, silence hung over the room like a dropped curtain. Harper blocked the doorway, her manicured hand tightening on the frame. "You weren't invited," she hissed, voice low but trembling. I tilted my head, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "That's funny. I didn't think I needed an invitation to my own home." Murmurs rippled behind her. Someone asked, "Who's at the door?" Another voice laughed nervously. Harper tried to slam the door shut, but I wedged my heel in the frame. The click of my stiletto against the wood was sharper than any threat. Move, Harper, we're going to talk, whether you like it or not. For a split second, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Then she plastered on her fake smile and raised her voice, turning to the crowd. Everyone, sorry for the interruption, just a little mix-up. I pushed past her before she could stop me. Gasps filled the room. 20 pairs of eyes locked on me, some wide with recognition, others narrowing with confusion. The music had cut off mid-beat, leaving only the awkward sound of shifting feet and clinking glasses. And then I heard it, my mother's voice. Julie? She stood near the kitchen with Dad at her side, both frozen, like children caught sneaking candy. My mother's wine glass trembled in her hand. Dad wouldn't even meet my gaze. What are you doing here? Mom's voice cracked under its own nerves. I let out a bitter laugh. What am I doing here? This is my apartment. The better question is, what are all of you doing here? The crowd stirred uneasily. I caught whispers. Her apartment? What's going on? Harper stormed forward, cheeks burning red. This is my party, Julie. You're not welcome. You left this place, abandoned it. Mom and Dad gave it to me. You have no right to barge in and ruin everything. I turned slowly to face the room, raising my voice so everyone could hear. Let's get one thing straight. I didn't abandon anything. I moved for work. And I let my parents live here because I wanted them to finally have something decent. What I didn't do was sign this place over to Harper and her fiancé. I spat the word like poison. The same fiancé who used to be my boyfriend. The tension snapped like a whip. Eyes darted from me to Harper, then to Jake, who was slouched near the couch, his face pale as paper. He had the decency to look ashamed, though not enough to move. Gasps fluttered through the room. A few of my aunts exchanged sharp looks, whispers rising. One muttered, "So it's true?" Harper's lips curled into a snarl. "Stop being dramatic. You don't even live here anymore. Why should you care who does?" "Because, Harper," I said, stepping closer, "I still pay every dime of the mortgage. My name is on the deed. This is my home. And you," I pointed to her and Jake, "are nothing more than squatters dressed up for a party." Her jaw tightened, fury trembling beneath her skin. Mom rushed between us, hands raised as if to shield her favorite child. "Please, Julie, don't do this. Not here, not in front of everyone. You're making a scene." I almost laughed. "A scene? You want to talk about a scene? How about the scene where I find out on social media that my sister has moved into my apartment without my knowledge and parades it as if you and Dad gifted it to her like some kind of hand-me-down?" Dad finally spoke, his voice quiet but brittle. "You gave us the keys, Julie. You said it was ours." "I said you could live here," I shot back. "I never said you could hand it over. There's a huge difference between letting someone stay somewhere and giving away property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars." The room buzzed with unease. A couple of guests started edging toward the door, murmuring apologies. Harper's smile cracked, replaced with raw desperation. "You're jealous," she spat suddenly. "You couldn't handle that Jake chose me. You couldn't stand that Mom and Dad love me enough to want me settled. You have your career, your new city, your perfect life, and still, you come back just to tear mine down." I took a step closer, lowering my voice, but every word sliced through the silence. "Jealous? No. I pity you. You think you've won something. But all you've done is prove you can't have anything unless you steal it from me. My clothes, my friends, my boyfriend, now my home. And you expect respect for that?" Harper's fists clenched. Jake finally spoke, his voice barely audible. "Julie, maybe we can talk about this privately." I turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Privately? You're living in your ex-girlfriend's apartment, Jake. Eating from her kitchen, sleeping in her bedroom. Does that not feel sick to you?" He faltered, gaze dropping to the floor. He had no defense, and his silence screamed louder than words. By now, half the guests had slunk out, the party dissolving like smoke. Those who stayed watched in uneasy silence, caught between curiosity and shame. Mom's voice cracked, shrill with desperation. "Julie, we made a decision as a family. Harper needed it more. You have money. You have options. Why can't you just let this go?" I turned on her, my fury cold and controlled. A decision as a family? When was I part of this family decision? Show me one call, one text, one email where you asked me if Harper could live here. You didn't. You decided for me, with something that was never yours to give. Mom stammered, her hands shaking. "But you said we could have it." Show me where I said that, I snapped. Show me one message where I used the word give. You can't, because it doesn't exist. The silence after my words was deafening. Even Harper's bravado faltered, her eyes darting around the room as though searching for someone to back her up. Finally, I pulled a folder from my bag and slapped it onto the table. Papers spilled across the wood. Deed, mortgage, insurance, all in my name. I raised my voice one last time so every soul in that room heard me. This apartment is mine, legally, financially, factually, and every single one of you knows it now. The final guests slipped out quietly, their whispers trailing down the hallway. The party was over, the illusion shattered. Only Harper, Jake, Mame, Dad, and I remained. Harper's voice broke the silence, sharp and venomous. You think you've won something, Julie? You've just declared war on your own family. And I promise you, we're not leaving. I smiled coldly, gathering my papers. Oh, you'll leave, not because I ask, but because the law says you have to. I'll see to that. And with that, I turned on my heel and walked toward the door. The echo of my steps, the only sound in the hollowed-out silence of the home I no longer recognized. The silence in my apartment lingered long after the last guest left, a silence so heavy it seemed to press against the walls. Harper stood rigid, her fists clenched, Jake hovering behind her like a shadow, desperate to disappear. My parents lingered near the kitchen, their faces pale, drained of the bravado they'd shown minutes earlier. You've ruined everything, Harper spat finally, her voice trembling with rage. Do you know how humiliating that was? In front of everyone? I tilted my head, meeting her fury with ice. The only thing I did was speak the truth. If you're humiliated, it's because you were caught lying in stolen property. Jake shifted uncomfortably, mumbling, maybe we should all just calm down. Calm down? I shot him a glare so sharp he fell silent. You've been living in my home, Jake. The same bed where you once told me you loved me, and you think I should be calm? His eyes dropped to the floor. For once, Harper had no witty retort ready. Her lips quivered as she looked to our parents for support. Mom rushed forward, her tone panicked. Julie, honey, can't we just work this out quietly? You have your new life now, your fancy job, your apartment in that new city. Why can't you just let Harper be happy here? You'll only destroy this family if you press it further. I laughed bitterly. This family was destroyed the moment you chose Harper's happiness over honesty. I gave you a gift. You betrayed me with it. Dad cleared his throat, his voice low but tense. Julie, listen. If you fight us on this, you'll regret it. We'll take you to court if we have to. You promised us this apartment. The threat was laughable, but I didn't show it. I leaned closer, lowering my voice until it cut sharper than a scream. Go ahead. I have every document proving ownership. If you want to stand in front of a judge and explain why you gave my apartment to Harper and her fiancé, be my guest. Their silence was answer enough. I turned, gathered my papers, and walked out the door without looking back. The next morning, I met with Tom, my old college friend turned lawyer. We sat in a cafe near my hotel, the morning sun glinting off his glasses as he skimmed through my folder. This is straightforward, he said, sliding the deed back toward me. You own the property. They're living there without permission. That makes them squatters, no matter what story they spin. I clenched my coffee cup so tightly my knuckles whitened. I don't want Harper living one more night in that apartment. How fast can I make them leave? Standard procedure is 30 days notice, but we'll make it official with eviction notices today. I'll send copies to Harper, Jake, and just to be safe, your parents. Good, I said. The word tasted like iron on my tongue. By that afternoon, the notices had been delivered electronically and by mail. 30 days to vacate. 30 days until my apartment was mine again. The fallout came fast. My phone buzzed with texts and calls. At first, guilt-ridden pleas. Mom. Julie, please, we just want to talk. We can fix this if you stop now. Dad. We raised you better than this. Don't do something you'll regret. Harper. You'll never win. Everyone in the family knows Mom and Dad gave this place to me. You'll only embarrass yourself more. I ignored them all. For every message, I reminded myself of the granite countertops, the balcony, the life I had built, stolen out from under me. Then the tone shifted. Mom, how can you be so cruel to your parents, after everything we've done for you? Dad, you're tearing this family apart for a piece of paper. Harper, you think you're better than us, don't you? Well, you'll see. You won't have a family left when this is over. I sat on my bed in the hotel, staring at their words, my chest aching. It wasn't that I doubted myself. I knew I was right, but a part of me still longed for parents who chose me, who protected me, who didn't twist my kindness into betrayal. That longing hurt worse than their threats. 2 weeks later, Tom called. His voice was calm, but I heard the edge beneath it. Your parents hired a lawyer. They're suing you for breach of promise. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Breach of promise? What promise? They claim you gave them the apartment as a gift, permanently. And their evidence? Nothing concrete, a few vague text messages probably, but they're going to drag you into court hoping you'll back down. My hands curled into fists. I won't back down. I didn't think you would, Tom said. But prepare yourself. They'll play dirty, especially Harper. The days stretched like years. Harper took to social media, painting herself as the victim. Posts appeared with captions like, "Some people just can't stand to see their sister happy." When you give family a home, you don't expect them to snatch it back. Betrayal runs deep. Relatives commented with sympathy, their ignorance fueled by her carefully chosen words. Some even messaged me directly, parroting Harper's lies. "A home is just bricks and walls, Julie," one cousin wrote. "Why destroy your parents and sister over this?" I didn't reply. Let them think what they wanted. The truth would come out where it mattered, in court. Still, late at night, guilt gnawed at me. I pictured my parents in their shabby rental, mom crying, dad worn down. Had Harper manipulated them too? Or had they willingly sacrificed themselves for her? Which was worse? But every time doubt crept in, I remembered that photo of Harper in my kitchen, smug and victorious, thanking my parents as though they'd built her a castle, and my doubt turned back into fire. The 30-day mark drew closer, but instead of preparing to leave, Harper doubled down. She and Jake posted videos from the apartment, cooking dinner, sipping wine on the balcony, laughing in the living room. Her captions taunted me. Home sweet home. So grateful to Mom and Dad for believing in us. Each post was a dagger, but I saved them all. Evidence for court, proof of her arrogance. Meanwhile, Tom prepared the legal strategy. They'll argue emotion, he said. We'll argue law. Judges don't care about tears when the deed says otherwise. Still, I braced myself. Because if I knew my mother, she wouldn't just fight. She'd weep, beg, guilt-trip the courtroom until every eye turned on me like I was the villain. But this time, I wasn't the villain. I was the one finally drawing a line. And if the price of protecting myself was losing my family for good, so be it. The courthouse smelled faintly of disinfectant and old wood polish, a place where lives were decided in rooms that looked deceptively ordinary. I sat at the plaintiff's table beside Tom, my hands folded tightly on the stack of documents, deed, mortgage records, tax receipts. Cold, factual proof of ownership. But my chest ached with something no paperwork could protect against. The sight of my parents sitting on the other side of the aisle, their faces lined not with shame, but with stubborn determination. Harper sat between them, chin tilted high, dressed in a sharp cream blazer that made her look like she thought she belonged in a magazine spread. Jake hovered awkwardly at her side, clearly wishing he could vanish into the polished floor. Harper leaned toward Mom and whispered something that made Mom nod firmly, as though my sister were her general and she, the loyal soldier. "Remember," Tom murmured, leaning close to me, "this isn't about emotion, it's about facts. Stay calm, no matter what they say." The bailiff called the court to order. The judge entered, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd heard every kind of family tragedy before breakfast. "Case of Harper and Mr. and Mrs. Clark versus Julie Clark," the clerk announced. The judge nodded. "Proceed." Their lawyer started first, a man slick as oil, his voice oozing sympathy. "Your Honor, my clients were promised a home by their daughter, Julie. She gave them the keys, told them it was theirs. Based on that promise, they made sacrifices, even moved into a smaller place themselves so her sister, Harper, could begin a family here. This is not just about legal documents, but about fairness, about family trust." He gestured toward my parents, who sat looking appropriately weary, like saints suffering unjustly. Mom even dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Dad stared at the floor, silent. When it was our turn, Tom stood, his tone crisp and merciless. "Your Honor, we don't deal in fairness without facts. We deal in law. The deed is in Julie's name. The mortgage is paid by Julie. The taxes are paid by Julie. There is no written or verbal contract transferring ownership. What my client did was allow her parents to live in the apartment out of kindness. That kindness was exploited when they, without her consent, placed her sister and her sister's fiancé in the property. That's not fairness. That's trespassing. I kept my face neutral, though inside anger boiled. The judge turned to Mom. Mrs. Clark, did your daughter ever explicitly tell you she was giving you the apartment permanently? Mom's voice trembled, but she spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. She said we could have it. She said she wanted us to live there. I took that to mean it was ours. Did she ever sign anything to that effect? The judge asked. Mom's eyes darted to Harper. No. But family doesn't need papers. We trusted her. Her voice broke into sobs. We're old. We thought she loved us enough to give us security in our final years. The courtroom shifted uncomfortably. I felt eyes on me, some judging, some pitying. Exactly the effect Harper wanted. Then Harper herself took the stand. She smoothed her skirt, looked straight at the judge, and began. Julie abandoned this apartment when she left. She gave it to my parents. They, in turn, gave it to me and Jake, so we could finally start our lives. She's only come back because she can't stand to see me happy. She's always been jealous of me, ever since we were kids. This is about spite, not justice. Her words were knives, each one aimed to cut me down, not legally, but personally. She painted me as bitter, cold, selfish. And as she spoke, she glanced toward me, her lips curling into a triumphant little smile, as if daring me to explode and prove her right. But I didn't. I sat still, hands folded, letting Tom handle it. When he rose for cross-examination, his voice was cool. Miss Harper, do you pay the mortgage on the apartment? Her eyes flickered. No, but... Do you pay the property taxes? No. Do you have any document in writing that states my client gifted you the apartment? No, but... Then by what logic do you claim it as yours? Harper's composure cracked. Her voice rose, shrill. Because it's mine. My parents gave it to me. They promised... Promises are not ownership, Tom cut in smoothly, especially when made by people who never had ownership to begin with. The judge held up a hand. Enough. She turned her gaze on me. Miss Clark, is it true you told your parents they could live in the apartment? Yes, Your Honor, I said clearly. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. I told them they could live there, to give them comfort. But I never said it was theirs to give away. I never signed over the deed. I continued paying the mortgage and the taxes every month. I was helping them, not giving away property. The judge studied me for a long moment, then leaned back. The silence stretched, broken only by the scratch of her pen. Finally, she spoke. The facts are clear. The property belongs to Julie Clark. There is no evidence of a legal transfer. Therefore, Harper and Mr. and Mrs. Clark have no claim of ownership. My mother let out a wail, clutching her chest as if the words themselves had stabbed her. Harper's face twisted, her perfect mask collapsing into raw fury. You can't do this, she shrieked, standing so fast her chair toppled. You can't just side with her. She doesn't deserve it. Sit down, Miss Clark, the judge barked. This case is concluded. The gavel struck once, sharp as thunder, and just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, the air felt too bright, too loud. My parents emerged first, my mother still sobbing, Dad holding her arm, his own face carved with quiet defeat. They didn't look at me, not once. Harper stormed past, her heels clicking furiously against the marble steps, Jake trailing behind her like a scolded child. She turned once, eyes blazing into mine. You've destroyed this family. Don't think you've won. You'll regret this. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Tom placed a hand on my shoulder. Legally, this is done. But emotionally, he sighed. That's another battle. He was right, because even as relief washed over me, so did grief. I had fought for what was mine and won, but in doing so, I had burned the last fragile bridges between me and my family. Still, as I stood there on the courthouse steps, papers clutched in my hands, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Control. For once, I wasn't the victim of Harper's games or my parents' favoritism. I was the one holding the pen, writing the ending. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth the loss. 30 days. That's all the court gave them. 30 days to pack their things, to peel their photographs off my walls, to drag their stolen happiness out of the home I had built. I tracked every day on my calendar like a prisoner counting down to freedom. The texts and calls didn't stop. At first, they begged. Mom, Julie, please, we'll make Harper move out if you let us stay. We can't survive in that awful rental. Dad, just let your mother have some peace. She's not well. This stress is killing her. Then the anger came. Mom, ungrateful, heartless. No child should treat their parents this way. Harper, enjoy your empty apartment. It won't hug you at night. I stopped reading after that. I blocked their numbers, their social media. I had to. Each word was a hook designed to pull me back into their web of guilt and manipulation. Instead, I focused on the finish line. On the 30th day, Tom called me personally. They're out, he said. I went to supervise. Harper screamed. Jake sulked. Your mother cried. Your father loaded the boxes. But they're gone. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it out in a shaky exhale. Thank you, Tom. You should see the place, though, he added grimly. It's not in great shape. 2 days later, I flew back to see it myself. Walking into the apartment was like walking into the corpse of a life I no longer wanted. The walls were scarred with nail holes. The carpets were stained beyond recognition. The chandelier I'd saved up for was gone, ripped out of the ceiling. They'd even taken some of the light fixtures, leaving wires dangling like broken veins. I walked slowly from room to room, the silence deafening. Here was the living room where I'd celebrated buying my first place. Here was the balcony where I'd once pictured lazy Sunday mornings with Jake. Here was the bedroom where I'd cried after Harper stole him. Now every space felt poisoned. Tom watched me carefully. We can renovate, or rent it out, or... No! My voice cracked, but it was steady. I don't want it anymore. This place isn't my home. It's a monument to betrayal. He nodded slowly. Then we sell. Within a month, the apartment was listed and sold. The market was good, and even with the damage, the final offer gave me enough for a hefty down payment on a new condo in my current city. When the papers were signed and the money transferred, I felt something loosen in my chest, a chain snapping, a tether breaking. I wasn't tied to that apartment anymore. I wasn't tied to Harper's games, my parents' favoritism, or the endless cycle of guilt. For the first time in years, I was free. Of course, freedom doesn't silence gossip. Word spread quickly through the family grapevine. Harper posted bitter updates on Facebook about how I'd destroyed her dream of homeownership. My mother complained to relatives about her ungrateful daughter who threw her parents into the street. Cousin Lisa called me one evening. Just so you know, Harper's telling everyone you betrayed her and your parents, that you're selfish, cold. I laughed, though it sounded more tired than amused. And do they believe her? Some do, Lisa admitted. But most of us know the truth. You helped your parents out of kindness, and they handed your gift to Harper. That's not on you. Her words warmed me, but only faintly. I'd stopped expecting validation from my family long ago. Months passed. My new condo became my sanctuary. Clean walls, sunlight streaming through tall windows, not a single memory tainted by Harper or Jake. I bought new furniture, hung my own photos, filled the rooms with my laughter and my friends' voices. Sometimes, when the nights grew quiet, I wondered if I'd made the right choice, if keeping the apartment for my parents might have salvaged something between us. But then I'd remember their faces in court, the way they chose Harper's happiness over my sacrifice, and I knew nothing I could have done would ever have been enough. Because in our family, Harper's wants always outweighed my worth, and I was done playing that role. I heard through Lisa again that Harper and Jake eventually moved into a cramped rental across town. Their engagement dragged on. No wedding in sight. My parents ended up back in a smaller unit, not much better than the one I'd rescued them from years before. Apparently, they still tell anyone who will listen that I stole the apartment from Harper. The story has twisted so far from reality, it's almost funny. Almost. But I no longer feel the need to defend myself. Let them talk. Let them spin their lies until they choke on them. I have my truth, my peace, and a life they can't touch. Peace. One evening, sitting on my new balcony with a glass of wine, I let myself reflect. Blood, I realized, may bind people, but it doesn't make a family. Respect does. Love does. Trust does. And when those things are absent, all you have are strangers who share your last name. I thought losing my parents and sister would break me. Instead, it set me free. Free from comparison, from manipulation, from being the one who always gave while they always took. Yes. Sometimes I feel the ache of loss, the little girl inside me who still longs for parents who choose her. But the woman I am now knows better. That girl is gone, replaced by someone stronger. Someone who will never again let family or anyone steal from her and call it love. So when people ask if I regret cutting ties, my answer is simple. No. I built a new family here, friends who respect me, colleagues who value me, and one day I'll find a partner who isn't swayed by Harper's manipulations or my mother's guilt trips. For now, I have peace, and peace, I've learned, is worth more than blood.